Fall is setting in, but that doesn't mean that the flowers have to stop, or does it? Hi, I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings, and it is mid-October right now, and to be honest, the annuals are still looking very nice. But we definitely have experienced a change of seasons here in Michigan, and the nights are getting colder, days are getting colder, and we just don't have the heat like we did this summer. So we're going to go ahead and just take a look, though, before we get too cold, at some of the new annuals for 2024 and just show you how they have held up this late in the season. So let's go ahead and take a look. So this flower bed here lines our parking lot, so it gets the extreme temperatures in the summer with the heat just pounding off the pavement. All of these plants are in full sun and are grown in a zone 5B 6A garden. Now understand, like we said, it's mid-October, so these plants do not owe us anything at this point in the season. Any color and any show they're giving us is just added bonus and time. So let's go ahead and take a look. So one thing we noticed here was with the new cherry drop Coleus is this plant has been a monster. This is planted in the ground, and I think there's 2, maybe 3 plants in this grouping, and you can just see how much ground this plant is covering. This plant, one plant, honestly, is going to do a big job in your containers, in the ground, in your hanging baskets. So be careful with planting this. Less is more, but you can see it's such a gorgeous color for foliage interest. Beautiful magenta centers, and then the burgundy, and then the nice lime green peakedy edge. It's really heavily serrated. Gorgeous coloration. So that is a beautiful foliage Coleus. We have not seen any flowers form on it, which is a great thing with Coleus, is our goal is not to see flowers, and this plant has not flowered at all this season. The next plant we have is the Super Bells, and this is a double. It's called Smitten Pink, and you can see how there's kind of 2 different colors going on these beautiful little rosebud looking blooms. There's a nice deep magenta center and then a softer pink edge. These form these cute little rosebud flowers, and you can see we did them here in the ground, but this would also be a nice plant to plant in hanging baskets or containers. And it could pair well with the new Super Bells Double White. And again, I'm trying to find the best of the best because it is kind of end of season. But you can see these plants are really holding on nice. Typically though, with Super Bells, we do not recommend planting them in the ground. We did plant them in the ground because we knew that would be the most extreme area to plant them in. But typically the reason why Super Bells don't like being in the ground is because it's just too wet in the ground for them. So they typically will do better in a container or a hanging basket where you can have more control over the amount of water they're getting. In the back is a beautiful new James Britannia, and this one is the James Britannia Dusk, I think is what it is, and nice kind of a purpley color. This did really well here in the landscape. This is a great plant for especially southern gardeners where things typically, you need things that are a little bit more drought tolerant. These also do well in hanging baskets or containers, and those held on really good this year as well. The next new plant is actually an upgrade, and this is the Super Beina Cherry Burst. So this plant, in the past, you would see it have these beautiful stripy flowers like we're seeing, and then on rare occasions you'd get these more peachy little blooms coming through. Well, what they did with this plant is they kind of increased the frequency of those peachy plants coming in. So there's going to be more consistency with having the beautiful striped flowers along with having some more of those peachy little blooms coming through. We're going to move around a little bit, and here's a grouping where you can see they're kind of all peachy. So it's kind of neat because you get the feeling of 2 different plants in one container. So I kind of like that because I can plant 1 plant but get the feeling of 2. So I kind of feel like it's kind of like a 2-for-1 feeling. The next one we have is the Supertunia Mini Vista Sweet Sangria. Beautiful bright magenta blooms. Fabulous Supertunia, part of the Mini Vista series. So So basically what the Mini Vista series is, a little bit smaller flower, a little bit tighter habit in my opinion. Great for in-ground plantings as well as in container combinations. Super Petunias do great with just that massive color, and you can see here that they blend really well with the Super Beinas amongst other plants, but that Sweet Sangria is just really a beautiful color in the Mini Vista series. Also, another new Super Beina is the Pink Cashmere. Beautiful, really large blooms. These plants are kind of a really pretty pink color with a brighter pink on top and a little bit softer pink, almost to white on the bottom of the blooms. And you can just see how it's kind of hanging out here with that Sweet Sangria and hanging out quite well. We'll be showing you this here as we get further down, because I do have these planted in several different areas. And the reason we do that is because I want you to get a feel for the different plants in different places. I could pick the one best plant and show it to you, but that's not fair. I want to show it to you in many areas so you can see the good, the bad, and the ugly if the plant is showing any of that. Here it is again, the Pink Cashmere, looking gorgeous. Another new double in the Super Petunia series is the Vintage Coral, and I really have been pretty impressed with this one. Now, this isn't my typical color scheme, the oranges and such, but that has just really been a very beautiful plant and has done very well in the landscape this year. Here's a beautiful planting of the Sweet Potato Vine Red Hawk, and I just love how Sweet Potato Vine often I think is known as a trailer in containers or hanging baskets, but it does equally well as a ground cover in the landscape. And I just love the color and the texture of the foliage that this brings. Now, this would be an indicator plant that we got frost, and because it's still looking pretty good, that tells me that we have not had frost yet. As we continue on, you'll see we've got more of the Sweet Sangria Mini Vista mixed in with the Super Beina Cherry Burst. That's kind of a neat looking combination if you're looking to pair two plants together. A little grouping here, struggling along, but still putting out a little bit of flower, is the James Britannia Dusk, planted with a Super Bells Double White. So there's another idea for kind of a nice pairing. And that last rose, wow, that thing is coming back to life again. That is gorgeous. An improved version of Nemesia is Nemesia Coconut. This plant here is a really beautiful white addition, kind of a nice filler for containers or combinations, or it has a really nice mounding habit here in the landscape. And we have that paired with a Super Bells Blue, which has been improved for this year. And that's a pretty blue and white combination. Saffron Finch has done really good this year, but it's kind of giving it up right now. But look at the beautiful colors. And this is a plant that we are going to be using a lot in our baskets and in our container combinations, because it's nice to get a really pretty yellow to add into the mix. I think yellow really kind of helps set off your combinations. More of that Cherry Burst Super Beina. You can see that makes such a nice ground cover. Planted in the back there is more of the the Cherry Drop Coleus. That's one plant you're seeing. That one plant is making a small shrub. There's another one, and yet another one. Here's another example of Sweet Potato Vine planted in the landscape, creating a beautiful ground cover. Planted in front of it is the Hoopla Vivid Violet Super Petunia. Loving the bicolor blooms. Ultramarine Mini Vista. Ultramarine is tucked in there as well. And if you're looking for a sister or to the Super Petunia Royal Velvet, this Ultramarine definitely is a little bit more smaller flower, tighter compact habit because it's a Mini Vista. But the color would match up nicely to the Royal Velvet. More of the Sweet Sangria. And you can see how these Mini Vistas really do an excellent job as a ground cover in the landscape. Bermuda Beach Supertunia was improved with a color this year, and I really have been enjoying the improved color. I just feel like it's an easier to work with color. Before it was just kind of a salmon-y kind of color, and really I didn't know what to mix with it besides yellow. So this here I think is a lot brighter, a lot nicer, and I'll be able to do a lot more combinations using this Bermuda Beach because it's just a more workable color. More of that pink cashmere Super Beina back there, just going strong. Ultraviolet Mini Vista. Behind it is Scaevola Whirlwind White, which has been improved this year. Typically Scaevola, we would use it in hanging baskets or planters. Here we have it in the ground planting, and it's done really good. So we do like to kind of push the limits when we are planting things by putting them both in the ground and in containers. We know that in the ground, usually that's going to be the most, that's going to be the kind of a spot where the plants are really going to have to show me what they got. Because in containers, you're kind of paying more attention to them, you're watering them, you're babying them along. But when you're putting your plants in the landscape, I feel like they just have to kind of fight and see what they can do. So really, for this late in the year, mid-October, we've been really impressed with all of the plants that I've just showed you in this video. And these are all new varieties for 2024. If you want to see them in their prime, check out our summer garden tours, because that's where you're going to see these plants really shining in the landscape. If you have any questions or comments, you can please feel free to leave them below. We will start taking pre-orders for 2024 plants on or around December 1st. So if there's any of these plants that you're interested in, you can head over to our website, gardencrossings.com, and pre-order for spring shipping. I'm Heidi from Garden Crossings.